Long before the word feminism was invented, the Yoruba people had already encoded something radical into their society. The Iyalode, the queen of the market, was not a ceremonial title. She was a force. She controlled commerce, set prices, managed disputes, and commanded the loyalty of thousands. The Iyalode sat in councils with kings and war chiefs. She spoke on behalf of women, but her authority extended to the whole community. In Yorubaland, women were not just permitted power, they were expected to carry it. And then there were the ones who went beyond even that. The ones so formidable, so uncompromising, so deeply consequential that history has never been able to erase them, no matter how hard it tried. Today, we count down the 10 most feared, most powerful, and most extraordinary women in all of Yoruba history. At number 10 is Alaafin Orompotoniyun, the princess who became king. In the 16th century, the Oyo Empire had a crisis. Alaafin Egungoju had died without a male heir. His younger brothers were too young to reign. The Council of Chiefs began plotting among themselves for power, and then Orompoto, princess of the royal house and daughter of Alaafin Ofiron, walked in and said, "The throne is mine." The Oyomesi refused. A woman could not be Alaafin. It had never been done. It would never be done. But Orompoto asked for 7 days. What happened in those 7 days, Yoruba oral history has never been able to fully explain. On the 7th day, she appeared before the chiefs and removed her clothing. They saw a flat chest, and when she went further, they saw what they could only have described as the anatomy of a man. Every chief fell to the ground. Kabiyesi, the throne was hers. Whether it was a miraculous transformation, a twin who stood in her place, or powers beyond ordinary understanding, the Oyomesi accepted her. She reigned from approximately 1554 to 1562, and in that time, she rebuilt the Oyo military from the ground up. She traveled as far as Timbuktu to import horses, created a specialized cavalry of 1,000 mounted archers with poisoned arrows, and revolutionized Oyo's war strategy. She was the first Alaafin to introduce organized cavalry to the empire, and historians argue that this cavalry became the foundation of Oyo's later dominance across West Africa. Number 9 is Ooni Gbagida, the Iron Queen of Ile-Ife. Ooni Gbagida was the 21st Ooni succeeding Ooni Gyesi. She was known for her extraordinary physical beauty, her ferocious sense of justice, and her absolute refusal to tolerate laziness, dishonesty, or mediocrity. The elders called her uncontrollable. They called her high-handed. What they meant was that she answered to no one and compromised on nothing. She refused to walk on bare earth. Those who violated her laws were made to bake clay, break it with their bare hands, and lay it beneath her feet as punishment. Some of those tiles still exist in Ile-Ife today. Luwo treated slave and noble with the same standard, and she raised a son, Ademola, who went on to found the city of Luwo, making her the mother of an entire kingdom and the grandmother of a dynasty that still exists. When her reign ended, the Council of Obas made a vow: never again would a woman sit on the throne of Ife. The fact that they had to make that rule tells you exactly how unforgettable she was. Coming in at number 8 is Iyalode Bisoye Tejuosho, the industrialist who commanded kings. Starting as a trader who transported foodstuff by rail from Zaria to Lagos, she expanded her reach decade by decade, becoming an agent for the United African Company, then partnering with a Norwegian businessman to co-found the Nigerian Uratan Company in 1963. When she disagreed with her business partners in 1970, she did not negotiate. She built her own factory called Cool Forms and entered the foam and carpet manufacturing industry on her own terms. She employed thousands. She helped build an economy. On January 23, 1982, she was installed as the third Iyalode of Yorubaland, following in the footsteps of the legendary Efunroye, Tinubu, and Madam Jojolola. She received the Order of the Niger in 1982. She was a devoted Christian, a philanthropist, a mother, and a builder of communities and churches across Abeokuta. She was murdered on September 19, 1996, at the age of 80 at her own home in the midst of an Yorubaland or Bashit conflict. The killers were never brought to justice. A murder has never been solved. She is remembered not just for what she built, but for the fact that someone powerful enough feared her enough to silence her. A hospital, a foundation, and a legacy bear her name. Number 7 is Madam Kofoworola Ademola. Born May 21, 1913, into an Egba royal family in Lagos. Kofoworola Ainomo grew up in a household that believed education was not a privilege of men. That belief would take her further than anyone in Africa had gone before. In 1932, she enrolled at St. Hugh's College, Oxford. She was the only African woman in the institution and the very first. The British students stared at her as though she were a curiosity, a specimen, something to be studied. By 1935, she had earned her degree in education and English, becoming the first black African woman to graduate from the University of Oxford. She did not stay in England to enjoy the distinction. She came home to Nigeria and spent the rest of her life building schools for other women and girls. She married Sir Adetokunbo Ademola, who became Nigeria's first Chief Justice and stood beside him across decades of national history. In 1959, she received the Member of the Order of the British Empire. She wrote children's books drawn from Yoruba folklore so that young Nigerians could see themselves in stories. She died on May 15, 2002, at the age of 88, having spent her entire life opening doors she was told did not exist. Coming in at number 6 is Mama Hannah Idowu Dideolu Awolowo. Chief Obafemi Awolowo, the sage of Yorubaland, once said that 3 things accounted for his success: the grace of God, Spartan self-discipline, and a good wife. He ranked her third after God. But the truth is that without Hannah, there may have been no Awolowo at all. When Awolowo was jailed in 1962 on treason charges, Hannah was the one who showed up every day. She delivered food to the prison. She managed the businesses alone. She stood on podiums across the western region, rallying supporters. She kept the flame burning for years while her husband was behind bars. She held the chieftaincy titles of Yeye Oba of Ile-Ife and the Yeye Odua, mother figure of the Yoruba nation. Even after Awolowo's death in 1987, she chaired the Nigerian Tribune and anchored the Awolowo Foundation for decades. She died on September 19, 2015. Just weeks before her 100th birthday. Her burial brought presidents, governors, monarchs, and ordinary Nigerians to Ikene, because they all knew that behind the sage there was a queen. At number 5 is Iyalode Alimotu Pelewura. Born around 1865 in Lagos, into a Muslim Awori family. She had no formal education. She could not read or write. She sold fish, and she became one of the most feared women the British colonial government ever encountered in West Africa. By 1910, her reputation in the Lagos markets had grown so large that Oba Eshubai Eleko gave her a chieftaincy title. In the 1920s, with the help of her political ally Herbert Macaulay, she became the president of the Lagos Market Women's Association, an organization that would grow to over 8,000 members and become one of the most formidable grassroots forces in colonial Nigeria. She fought the British on every front. When they proposed taxing market women in 1932, she led a protest delegation to Government House. When they tried to relocate the Ireko market in the mid-1930s, she stood in front of government officials and dared them to move past her. They arrested her. The market women of Lagos came out in the streets until she was released. In 1940, when the colonial government proposed a tax on women earning above £50, she closed the Lagos markets entirely on December 16 and marched thousands of women to the commissioner's office. The government backed down, raising the taxable threshold from £50 to £200. In 1947, she was given the Irelu title for her relentless service to her people. When Alimotu Pelewura died in 1951, approximately 25,000 people attended her funeral. The editor of the West African Pilot had called her the mother of metropolitan Lagos. A market on Lagos Island was named after her in 1981. Her proteges, Alhaja Abibatu Mogaji, President Tinubu's mother, succeeded her. Coming in at number 4 is Iyalode Efunroye Tinubu, the kingmaker of Lagos. Born around 1810 in Ojokodo, in the Egba forest, daughter of Olumosa, a worshipper of Obatala. She learned commerce from her mother and grandmother, who traded in herbs and food. By the time she married the exiled Oba Ajasoro in 1833 and moved with him to Badagry, she was already a natural businesswoman. In Badagry, she built a trading empire of tobacco, salt, slaves, leveraging Adele's royal connections to forge ties with European merchants. When Adele was recalled to Lagos and later died, she did not disappear. She expanded, she made kings, she removed kings, she helped install Akitoye as Oba of Lagos over Kosoko. She owned the land that is now Tinubu Square. She commanded a private security force of slaves and sometimes issued orders that should have come from the king. The British consul Benjamin Campbell was so threatened by her that he convinced Oba Dosunmu to banish her from Lagos in 1856. They thought exile would break her. It did not. In Abeokuta, she switched from slave trading to arms dealing. She armed the Egba army against the Dahomey invasion of 1863, and for this she was awarded the title of Iyalode of all of Egbaland in 1864. She died in 1887 at the height of her power. Tinubu Square in Lagos is named for her. Her statue stands in Abeokuta, the first woman to stand against British colonial rule in Nigeria. Taking the bronze medal at number 3 is Iyalode Efunsetan Aniwura. Born in the 1820s in Ikija Iba, daughter of Chief Ogori, a warlord from Ikija, she grew up watching war. She learned commerce from a mother who traded petty goods. And by the time she arrived in Ibadan and built her business into one of the largest trading empires in 19th century Yorubaland, she had become something the city had never seen before. She owned over 2,000 slaves. She had multiple farms, each worked by no fewer than 100 laborers at a time. She traded tobacco, agricultural produce, Kijipa cloth, and a local cosmetic product called Kijipa, which she exported as far as America. She sold weapons. She financed wars. The entire city of Ibadan bought its ammunition on credit from Efunsetan, Aniwura. She was appointed the second Iyalode of Ibadan in the 1860s, sitting in councils of war chiefs and speaking with authority. And then her only daughter died in childbirth, something in Efunsetan. Aniwura broke that day and never healed. She became ruthless toward her slaves, forbidding pregnancy, forbidding marriage, forbidding the cry of children in her compound. She executed slaves for violations. The city trembled. Ariona Kakamfo deposed her as Iyalode on May 1, 1874 on politically motivated charges. On the night of June 30, 1874, Latosa bribed her adopted son Kumuilo to lead assassins into her compound. When they came for her, she chose death over capture. Coming in at number 2 is Funmilayo Ransome. On October 20, 1900 in Abeokuta. By 1919, she was in England, studying at a finishing school in Cheshire. She married Reverend Israel Oludoto Ransome-Kuti in 1925 and built a life of extraordinary purposeful action. She organized some of the first preschool classes in Nigeria. She ran literacy classes for market women she had never met, sitting on the ground with them, speaking Yoruba with them, wearing Yoruba clothing to meeting so that no woman would feel lesser than her. When the colonial authorities tried to tax market women, she led marches of up to 10,000 women through the streets of Abeokuta. In court, she refused to speak English even though she spoke it fluently, forcing officials to find interpreters. On January 3, 1949, after years of sustained pressure, she forced Alake Ademola, the second off his throne. She made a king step down. She received the Lenin Peace Prize. She met Mao Zedong in China. She was the first woman appointed to the Western House of Chiefs. She was called the Lioness of Lisabi and the Mother, Africa. Her children included Fela Kuti and 2 other sons who became a doctor and a health minister. In February 1977, about 1,000 soldiers raided Fela's compound in Lagos. Funmilayo Ransome-Kuti was there. They threw her from a second-story window. She was 76 years old. She never fully recovered. She died on April 13, 1978. Market women across Abeokuta closed their stalls on the day of her funeral. The press called her a progressive revolutionary. She was more than Fela's mother. Finally, at number 1 is Moremi Ajasoro, the queen who sacrificed everything. Moremi was born a princess from Offa and became the wife of the Ife king. She was beautiful, she was loved, and she was watching her people be destroyed. For years, Ile-Ife had been under siege from raiders the people of the forest who came dressed in thick raffia palm fronds from head to toe, looking like something between a spirit and a nightmare. The people of Ife believed they were super arrows. They could not be stopped by arrows. They could not be stopped by soldiers. They raided the markets, enslaved the women and children, and came back again and again. All the sacrifices offered to the gods did nothing. Moremi went to the Esimiri River and made a vow. She promised the river goddess that if she were given the power to discover the enemy's secret, she would offer whatever was asked of her in return, no matter the cost. Then Moremi did what no one else had dared. She allowed herself to be captured. She was taken as a slave to the Ugbo king. Her beauty captivated him. He made her his queen. And over time, in the intimacy of that palace, she learned everything. The raffia, it was not supernatural. It was dry grass. It would burn. A single torch thrown into their ranks would consume them entirely. She escaped in the night. She returned to Ile-Ife. She revealed the secret. The Yoruba warriors lit their torches. The Ugbo were defeated. Ile-Ife was free. Then Moremi returned to the river to fulfill her vow. The goddess had one demand, her only son, Olurorobo. She wept. She pleaded. She offered cattle, gold, jewels, clothes, everything she had. The goddess did not relent. And in the end, Moremi Ajasoro kept her word. She gave her son. The entire kingdom wept with her. And in consolation, the people of Ile-Ife made her a promise that they have kept to this day. We will be your children forever. Every native of Ile-Ife is, in tradition, a child of Moremi. The Edi festival was instituted in her memory. A statue built in her honor by Ooni in 2017 stands as the tallest statue in Nigeria, the fourth tallest in Africa. Schools, hostels at the University of Lagos and Obafemi Awolowo University carry her name. And in every corner of Yorubaland, her story is still told, because it is not just a story, it is a covenant. Moremi Ajasoro did not fight for glory. She did not fight for recognition. She gave her marriage. She risked her life. She gave her son. She did it all for people who had not yet been born, for generations she would never see, for a future she purchased with everything she had. She is not just the greatest Yoruba woman in history. She is the soul of what it means to love your people beyond the limit of yourself. It's why we remember her. That is why we always will. If this list moved you, if it reminded you of the women in your own life who carry more than the world will ever see, leave a comment, share this video, and subscribe to Top 10 Yoruba, because there is so much more of stories like this to uncover together.